Okay. Hi.
Hi, Dave. I just thought we could take a few minutes to sit down, but I want to first of all say thank you for letting me sit in on your lesson.
Yeah, I'm glad you were there. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was really great getting to sit in and see you in action. I just first kind of want to know how you feel this lesson went for you.
Um, I kind of just want to get clear on this, Jenna. Am I going to be able to keep my job after this?
I think the lesson went really well. I just want to get your opinion on if you were satisfied with it. What do you think went well or maybe not so well for you?
Okay, well, I think it's good, but I don't know. People think I'm like a crazy lady when I walk around with my stick like that all the time. I don't know, but I'm new at teaching, so I think I did a good job. I had these boys doing stuff, and the stuff they turned in was okay. So, um, yeah, I must have been doing okay. Um,
Okay, well, I think you made some great points, and I also think that you did really well with this lesson with time management because you were always on top of that.
yeah.
How do you think time management went for you?
Yeah. I mean, I use the counter thing, I mean, I measure out the amount of time it takes to do stuff. So I think everyone had enough time to do stuff, but not too much time. So I think I was happy with that. Yeah,
Okay, so what do you think the strongest part of your lesson was, and maybe a part of the lesson that didn't go so well for you?
yeah. Well, um, I like that I kind of like, I gave students, the ability to vote for whatever. So they're kind of like making the rules and all that. The punishment about sing and dance, I'm not so sure about, but
Okay.
I think that I introduced the stuff well. And I set the students up well. Um, I just, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing wrong, but it doesn't feel quite right. Like I
I can
said, I'm a new teacher, so yeah.
I can understand that, and I think even outside of the fact that you're new, all teachers kind of struggle with implementing sometimes because you can plan a really great lesson, but that doesn't mean it's going to go according to how you planned it. Like I mentioned before, I think you did really well with time management. I
Mhm.
think two areas where you could maybe adjust a little bit are your transitions and checking student understanding.
Um,
Those,
I check for understanding, though. What do you mean by that?
I think maybe you could adjust a little bit to make sure. I think maybe a more accurate way of checking student understanding. It's easy for us, all of us as teachers, to always say, "Do you understand?" But maybe have a more concrete way of checking. Because I think it was really great that you made sure you had an example of what the poster should look like that you were expecting.
Thanks.
That's a really great way to show exactly what you're expecting in the end. But
Mhm.
maybe get the students to repeat exactly to make sure that they understood what the instructions were. So, because I also do this sometimes, I will say, "Okay, great, guys, I've given you the instructions. Do you understand?" And as a student myself, I've been many times I've said, "Oh, yeah, I understand." And I'll find myself maybe a few minutes in looking around and thinking, "Oh, what am I supposed to do?" And I think students do that a lot because they just respond and say, "Oh, yeah, I understand." But maybe if you ask them to repeat back exactly what they're supposed to do, that's a really great way to make sure you're both on the
Okay.
same page.
Okay. Is that what they
Yeah.
call? Is that what they call CCQ? I remember a friend telling me about that concept, something questions, concept.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Okay.
just a really good way to make sure that the
Okay.
students know exactly what you expect from them, and it kind of cuts out having to go back at the end when they've maybe done something wrong or didn't really understand what you want, but
Okay.
they said, "Oh, yeah, I understand."
Okay.
But if you get someone to repeat exactly back to you, then you can adjust before they've made, or maybe try to make that poster and it turns out to be something completely different from what you were both expecting.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's always
I've got one more question for you.
sure.
At the end, when I gave that kid the stare, when I wanted them to be quiet, am I good at that? Am I good at giving the stare?
I think for a new teacher, you have a very good teacher stare. That's always a good thing to work on.
Thank you.
But like I said, I think it just maybe from the beginning, it's always hard when, as a new teacher, the most important thing is to set high expectations. And it's great that you included the students in building the classroom guidelines, but I don't know how workable those would be on an everyday basis. How do you think it's been going so far for you using the singing and dancing?
Well, we just got into that, so I'm not sure, but I think I'm going to get pretty bored of them singing and dancing pretty soon.
Yeah. I don't know if that would be the best way to get what you want from the students as well, but you're in your classroom, so you know how it works out for you every day. Maybe you can adjust as you go along and see what the students' input is as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I get to keep my job?
You definitely get to keep your job. Like I said,
I can still use my stick like a crazy lady?
you can still use your stick, hopefully not like a crazy lady, but I think, like I said, you've done really great with time management, and good that you, as I said, set your expectations for what the poster should look like. Examples are always really, really great because some kids are very visual, as you yourself know. So maybe seeing that makes everything better for them. But I just wanted to know if, based on some of the points that we discussed today, if we can set a timeline for checking in to see how everything is going, how you've adjusted based on what we talked about today.
Okay, well, why don't you come back in a month and you can come see me again, and then we'll see how I've improved. Does that sound good?
I think we can set up another feedback session for a month, but maybe what we can do is through email, we can set a timeline of the first week, just you check in and see what's working for you, if you've adjusted anything, if there's maybe anything you can adjust to be more successful.
Okay.
And maybe just document like any new strategies you've implemented.
Okay.
And see how that's going for you. Then I can just read up, and when I come back for this follow-up in a month, we can see how it's changed for you week to week. We can do a check-in every week, and then at the 4th week we can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I gotta go now. I gotta go.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, Jenna. Welcome. Glad to sit down with you today. I know it's been a couple of weeks, a few weeks since I observed you, but I was happy to come and watch your class. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about the class, because I always welcome feedback to see if there's anything I can work on.
Okay, cool. In general, how do you feel that your class went? Good class, bad class, strong parts?
I think it had some strong points, but there are definitely some areas that I could have maybe planned out a bit better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't I just I'll give you a little bit of feedback. I'll tell you a little bit about the good stuff, and then maybe we can kind of go from there. So, you introduced your lesson objectives, about the animal groups. I thought that was pretty good. You were eliciting, why the animals are grouped. I like that. Lots of stuff I wrote down. Responding positively and acknowledging students' answers. The students were really people with you, and I really like that. I like the popsicle sticks. That was cool. That's one I've got to remember. I kind of wish you'd use it more. It was almost like you just pulled it out one time just to show me what it was like. So that was pretty good. You had them in groups. Oh, this was interesting about how you told them that if they couldn't agree on a leader, that they didn't have a leader. So I like that. Okay. Let's see. something I want to ask you about. Okay, so you were saying that they'd taken this stuff in the previous semester or whatever, and they didn't quite remember. So I'm going to ask you a question about how do you feel about the concept checking? Everyone remember you said something like everybody remember the animal groups? And the answer
Yeah,
came.
I think that's one of the points that I thought about after, because I realized that I maybe should have prepped a bit better for that. Even though they had done it, I should have maybe done a review before starting this lesson to make sure that everyone still had all the information they needed to do this. Because maybe with the time that's elapsed, they needed to have a refresher or a review to make sure everyone was at a good starting point to get everything in this lesson.
Okay, good. So if you had it again to do again, then you might do it differently. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I
Cool.
definitely would.
Okay, so we were talking about fish and having gills in them. Okay, that's good. Okay. There was one thing that confused me. Maybe you can explain to me what the purpose of it was. You're saying something like when an animal has long legs, short legs, big eyes, I want you to think of why.
Yeah, I think I was trying to get my students to think about why different animals had certain characteristics and what they would use those things for. But maybe I could have given an example, or a better example rather, of why certain animals would use parts of their bodies for certain things, or how it helps them in certain environments, and then they maybe would have been able to make that connection.
Okay. Had they studied that before and just kind of forgotten, or maybe?
I think in the previous study, some of the students had made that connection and gotten to the point of why certain animals would need it, but it wasn't maybe a group understanding.
Okay. That sounds
So
a bit complex. I mean, I like it. It's an interesting line of thought. So maybe it's something that you might even need to devote a whole lesson to, possibly.
yeah, I also think so as well. This was another point where checking previous knowledge and understanding would have come
Right.
in maybe in this after such a long break.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Good stuff. Passing out, the slips with the animals on it. I like that. Calling out a group, mammals or whatever, and everyone responding. That's good. That's good stuff. Okay. Yeah, I guess with the concept check, if we had high school students, and you might want to ask them advanced questions, but I like the thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. Do you think that there were any problems, major problems you saw with, like procedures or managing your transitions?
I think transitions could always go a lot smoother for me, because I tend to maybe have a timeline in my head that I'm keeping that of course the students are not really always aware of. They're of course used to how the class usually goes, but I have a different timeline in my head of what I'm trying to get to. So maybe I can just, like you said, devote a little more time to clarifying all the things that I want, as opposed to trying to keep on a schedule for what I need to get done or what the end goal is for the lesson.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, we're kind of getting short on time here. Why don't we look at how we can connect in the future to see how you're progressing? I've got an idea. Maybe you can email me in a week or so and tell me how you think things are going. And yeah, so if we just keep in communication, maybe we keep in communication every week. If you want, I can come back to see you again anytime. It would be my pleasure. I think you're doing good stuff. If I was a little kid, I'd want to be in your class.
That's great. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. You take care.
Okay, you too.
Okay. Bye-bye.